Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Keep the Mic On. We are excited to be here tonight, as we are every week. We have been here since March of 2020 in conversation with an amazing artist who is more likely than not a friend of ours who we enjoy talking to anyway. Normally, my name is simply Sherry, and at this time, I would tell you what my week is about. But since I'm the host and the interviewer tonight, I'm not going to do that. Right now, I'm going to kick it to Miss Cayenne, see, because it was easy to point down.
It's me. Hey guys. I'm Miss Cayenne. I'm a poet and I know it. And welcome once again to Keep the Mic On. Another wonder-filled night of information, inside secrets. Hopefully we'll get a good chance to get to know the person behind the poetry. My segment is on second Sundays. It's called Passion Projects, the root of the why, where we kind of walk through a person's story of how they came to be this great creative. But again, this is not my night. This is a night for another great artist. And so with that in mind, I'm going to kick it to Girl Genius.
See, y'all have the easy pointing jobs today.
So that way. See, that's
right.
So
y'all got the easy points, like down, point up. Hi, everyone. I am Girl Genius. Nice to see you all this week. Good to have you back for another exciting week of interviews. Yes. My week is first week of the month, and it is called Let's Talk About the ... Usually books. That's why the ... Usually books, but I've had filmmakers, and I have plans to have other genres of things on here. And what do we have? Filmmakers, musicians, all kinds of things. And the segment deals with the process part, the how you get from I have this really great idea to here's this thing that's now consumable by the public, and all the little nuance that goes into like getting your book published and getting your music out there and making a film and all the creative little details that go into that. So again, first week of every month, and we are missing our fourth host for the moment, who will join us shortly, and that is Kaniki Jakarta, who is the wait a minute. She's the fourth Sunday, and her segment is Poets and Platforms. See, now Passion Projects and Poets and Platforms always like trips me up because I know who does what. It's like when you say it a couple times, you're like, wait a minute.
It does kind of gets caught up on the tongue.
Yeah,
it gets caught up on the tongue just a tad bit. But yeah, Kaniki is 4 Sundays with Poets and Platforms, dealing with artists who have who talk about the platform on which they build their art. And again, she will be joining us shortly. But again, this is not my week, and I'm very excited about our guest. So I'm going to stop talking and feed it to this week's host, which is, look, I got it, Simply Sherry.
Good job. And real quick, as Kaniki would remind you, now is the time for you to go tell your mama and them and your friends and them that we are now live on Facebook and on YouTube. So definitely watch, come on in. Also, she would also say that please remember that these platforms, we volunteer our time, our artists volunteer their time, but these platforms are not free. Please take a moment, give us $1, give it if you can, to Keep the Mic On at Cash App. We appreciate that. Also, like, follow, and subscribe. YouTube, Facebook. We're pushing our way up into monetization. That's all I'm trying to say. Tonight is my segment, and my segment is called From Behind the Microphone, where we take the time to get to know the person behind the performance, because performers are people too. I think sometimes that, we get on stage and people see us and they're like, oh my God, wow. But, we all eat, sleep, and have favorite foods. So let's kind of talk about it. My guest tonight is a poet who I've probably known longer than I remember. But if you ask me for real, I met him last year at an event in Arlington, Virginia, and he blew my socks off the first time I heard them. Hailing from West Baltimore City, Mysfit The Lostboy is a spoken word artist, performer, storyteller, author, playwright, playwright, escaping the madness of the world through art. His work captures the very essence of tragedy and uses its bitterness to create beauty while breaking down barriers meant to stand in the way for its Black LGBTQ community. Mysfit's work has been published in poetry and urban fiction, genres. Most recently, he won the 2019 Day 8 Poetry Project and published his second book of poems entitled Port of Exit. He writes from a place of hope and humanity. The stage is where he allows his art to lift from the pages as he opens and shares his passion. Shy in nature, but ferocious on the stage, the Mysfit is a living testament, proving poetry soothes even the most savage of beasts. Everyone, please clap and welcome Mysfit. Hey, so good to see you.
Good to be seen and not be seen at work.
Right? I get that. I get that. As we talked about briefly in the pre-show, the floor is yours for your first poem tonight.
She gave me life, but she doesn't even know that I exist. I mean, of course, I spewed forth from her loins and we shared birthdays and Christmas, and she's still oblivious to me, and I see her smiling and laughing, and I just want to go up to her and show her that I am no longer that stillborn boy mommy. I've developed lungs, heartbeat, and teeth that I will use to eat, swallow, and digest anyone that ever tries to suggest that I don't breach the terms and conditions that makes living limited to me. But I guess that a homosexual son was just too far gone to foresee within your genetic codes, and if you don't truly believe that he created me a monster, then he broke no special mold when he created me being made human to validate my point proven, not peel back my skin, phosphorus, iron, nitrogen, and melanin for you to see that I bleed. I present you my lungs for show and tell, for you to see that I breathe life. I am the ocean that grew from your sea, but imagine how difficult it is to know that the one that actually carried me doesn't know me as deep. That the most that she can factually speak of our offspring is that she's witnessed me and she knows my face. Familiar strangers in the closest way. If it wasn't for her DNA running through my veins, she probably couldn't tell you the last time she touched me. But I can, because that was around the time that I became broken. Just around the time that I loved you became the opening statement for the contrast in the word but. It was when my sexuality made me unwanted and unwelcome, to why I shouldn't be around children. If you still desire to sleep with men, then get away from my doorstep. And Kevin, there's no heaven for a homosexual, and I love you, but you will burn in hell herself. And the God that she served so desperately made it so hard for me to feel love. So why should I feel responsible for the shell that she sees? Because she couldn't accept the inner workings of me, her programming and distaste to me, placing in this sunken place amongst this race of man-made robots that's been replaced with the calculations designed for us not to feel, not to laugh, not to smile, not to cry, not to speak, not to breathe, just barely be. Now that you're actually ready to meet me, all that I know how to be is dead to you.
Wow. Wow. So we're going to start with the poem. Like, I didn't know where I was going to quite start tonight, but we're definitely going to start in this poem. How long did it take you to write that piece? We're going to go more into it, but I'm just curious on that.
It honestly didn't take any time. And that's a great question because I don't do much writing anymore.
Oh, okay. And
part of the reason why is because it feels like I'm writing. That was one of the ones, you know how you get the ones that they just come out of you. And that's what that was.
Yeah. As I mentioned, I've known Kevin longer because now I remember really when we met, you were featuring with some other poets in Baltimore.
We met before that.
Yeah, you're right. So it's been one of those things. but last year, some time. Right. But last year, Kevin and I did an event, and I showed up to an event with a poem I had wrote that morning. Like, it just.
Yes. and that's a killer piece. And you wrote it that day and killed it that day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have absolutely no clue where it came from. It just. So I guess the point of this sentence, everyone that is listening, all the writers, some pieces will just seem to just come out of you and just like they're here, and some
they write themselves.
They write themselves, and some of them will feel like giving birth. It just seems to take forever.
That was one that I needed to write. Like, I needed to write that poem for a very long time.
I can see from the subject matter.
Yeah. And it's important because like we're still trying to get to a place, my mother and myself. And I gotta give it to her. Like my mother really tries, like she's really trying. And I am too. But I actually showed her the video. I had did it at the SIPS open mic. I did it there and somebody recorded it. And I didn't know, it was going to get around and, she possibly see it. And I felt like, it'd be respectful for her to see it before, she's seen it somewhere else or heard about it somewhere else. And I went and I showed it to her and I had a conversation with her about it. Now the conversation didn't go the way that I necessarily wanted it to go. But she said some things that I needed to hear. Still wasn't things that I wanted to hear, but she said some things that I needed to hear. And it was kind of just good to, know what her truth was and what her feeling was about, our situation. And I guess that kind of gave us some place to try to build somewhere, even though we're not where I would like us to be or where she would like us to be, but we're considering where we were. We're starting.
It gave you a start. It gave you at least a starting point to say, okay, at least without coming to your house and saying, this is how I feel. This is how I've been feeling. I guess is the way to say it.
Yeah.
Wow. So do you feel that this piece, and I'm not going to dig too much longer if you don't want me to, do you think the piece has helped the healing process with you and your mom?
Yes. Because there was stuff that I needed to say to her, but I just never knew how to say it to her. So with my mother, the only way I can describe it, and I know to anybody else, it probably won't look that way, but I've been afraid of her for a very long time. And my mother isn't like a menacing person. She loved my twin. Guys, I have a twin. Come get in the camera real quick. Say hi. Hi guys. Not my blood twin, but that's my twin. And he and my mother are like this. My mother is a beautiful, beautiful person. However, I'm her son. And I can't take away from her that she had expectations and, things that she wanted for my life and things that may have made her afraid about my lifestyle and all that. I can't take any of that away from her. But still having the conversation with her was something that I wasn't able to do. When I came out to her, that was an experience. That was a tough experience. So before that, I was kind of like intimidated by her. Just because she is my mother. And like I told her before, she had the power to build me and she had the power to break me. And she used that power to break me. In sense, I've always been pretty afraid of her. So writing this poem was my way of saying the things that I needed to say to her that I didn't have the heart to say to her just in conversation.
Wow. This, we kind of started off at the high point. Like, where do we go with this conversation from here?
Tweet has a song that says, "Where do we go from here? I need to know."
I need to know. Oh wow, because that is a stronger start than I. Usually we build up to that moment, but no, we're here already. How did you? I have a question I will ask later about your first poetry performance, but how did you come to it's the standard question, come to the art of writing poetry?
Okay, so I got to poetry from writing music and singing. I used to sing when I was little.
Oh, wow.
I still bust a note out here and there, most of the time in the shower, sometime during coitus. Yeah, I used to sing when I was young. And I used to write songs and stuff when I was young. Do you remember that song, Been Around the World in I?
Yes.
I made the remix about the toilet. I could not find the bathroom when I was little. um, and I was writing music back then, and I had gotten into some groups and stuff, like singing groups and stuff, and I just knew that I just didn't fit, what I was supposed to be projecting to America, if that's what I decided to do, and I just didn't feel like I fit in, to that. So I was still writing, like I would write music and stuff, but that stuff would turn into just more personal things about myself. Like I would write little poems and stuff, one ABC 1 2 3 type poetry when I was young, but once I really started to get into what I was feeling, that was around the time that I was like doing those groups and stuff. And I was like, I don't think this is necessarily the route that I need to be going. So I was writing poetry and stuff. My voice wasn't what it was anymore, but I was still writing. And I'm not going to say no names, but I dated somebody in the Baltimore poetry scene. And like I encouraged him to get like on stage and stuff like that, but I was not getting up there. I had his back. I would tell him to go and do it and stuff, but it wasn't something that I was trying to do. And I had a big binder full of poetry that was garbage. But I wasn't about to get on the stage with it. And eventually, after a while, I started going out and doing it. But I don't feel like I really stepped into like what I am now until like maybe my mid-20s, and I'm 35 now. So maybe about 10 years, I feel like my poetry has really become what it's supposed to be. And I think that's because I stepped into myself too. Before, I was writing about, what everybody else wanted to hear from me. I was never doing things, simply for myself. I would write those things, but I would put them away. But now, like, or at least mid to late 20s, I was able to own, who I was and take everything to stage.
So what were you writing before?
Fake ass love songs, stuff to women and all that shit. Fake shit. Okay. I was not writing real life. I used to do like I used to write like stuff like church stuff, like stuff about church and the Bible and stuff like that, because that's how I was raised. I used to write about that stuff. But yeah, if I do now, it's not in the way that my mother would like.
Okay, I get that. So what do you remember? Do you happen to remember the name of the piece where you think that light switched on for you, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to write fake anymore. I'm going to write what feels real to me?
Iniquities. Can I borrow your iniquities?
Ooh. Yeah, there might be a request for that one later. That is trust me, everyone. If we might have to get into that one later, because that is a dope piece and I do love it.
Thank you.
What would now that what would did have a question and it completely escaped my mind, because then I started thinking about your book. In your bio, you said this is your second book. What was your first book titled?
So this is my Port of Exit is my second poetry book. My first book was Hood to Hood. It's an anthology of short stories. Everybody wrote about where they came from. So I wrote about Baltimore. Somebody wrote about Miami. Somebody wrote about Chicago. It's a bunch of us in there. Can you pass me that one? But the first poetry book was you can grab both actually. The first poetry book was Freedom's Where I Want to Be, a Mysfit's Poetry. So that's this one right here.
Oh, okay.
And I got this from the 30-30, challenge, poetry challenge. I won that book. I won this book deal from that. All of my book deals I won.
Oh, now, really? So you're not self-published. You've had publishers.
Yeah. So you know, are you familiar with Shannon Holmes? Be More Careful.
I am not.
Oh man, you have to, if you're into like urban fiction,
Mm-hmm.
Be More Careful is the book to read.
Okay, I just wrote it down.
Yeah, ask anybody about it. People familiar with it. Shannon Holmes did that, and this was like back in MySpace days. He had posted something about like a writing challenge. He wanted people to write about, you know, where they came from, and he was going to select a certain amount of us to put in the book, and I got in there. So this is the first one.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's raggedy now.
Oh, it looks like you, but it looks well loved.
Yes.
It looks like something you're proud that you've done.
I think that was like, I think the very first one was maybe like 2007, something like that. I graduated 2006. I was at the bank. It was either 2007 or 2008.
Okay.
But the poetry books came after that.
And the new book was released when?
That was 2019. Yeah, 2019.
And you know, when I'm gonna steal a question from Girl Genius, is there another one in the works, or is it just you're okay right now?
I'm fine right now. The thing is, none of them were ever in the works. They were never in the works because I had never planned on doing them.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that with the poetry book. How did we go from nothing to now I have a book?
So they were always like things that, just like with Chris, that other people pushed me to do. So like with the 30-30, I was writing just because, you know, I was taking part in the challenge. I didn't know anything about the challenge. I mean, the book deal that was coming from the challenge. I don't know if you're familiar with Mimi, Just Me, the poet. Yes. She was like running it, and she wanted me to make sure that I got in there, and I got in there, and I won. So now it's like, oh, you got to provide work, you know, for this book. Now I had some already, but it was never anything that I had planned on publishing in a book. Like I used to keep all of my stuff in a binder, a white binder that I was garbage, Sherry. I was trash. I used to go and perform, sit on a stool at the venue with a book on my lap like this whole time.
Everybody has that moment, and I love that you now. That is one of my questions. So that if you've never watched, at the end of my interview, I have about 10 questions that I ask everybody. Like if you've ever seen From Inside the Actor's Studio, it's kind of the same thing. I just asked these 10 questions. So in the chat, in the back chat, Daniel, Girl Genius just said, yeah, kind of look like you're picking karaoke songs.
Right.
And one of my standard questions is asking especially seasoned artists about that first time that they got on stage and performed and how they were performing in the early days. So
it was not performing. It was on stage reading. Period. That's it. I was reading. It was garbage. I used to do you know Nova?
Yes.
I used to do Nova shows a lot. I was awful. I was so awful. But I used to go and I used to do his shows, and they used to invite me back. I'm like, when I look back, why the hell were y'all inviting me back? Because I was terrible.
Apparently something you said has resonated.
Listen, hopefully, because I need some reason, because I didn't see what the reason was. But I had went away for about a year because I used to go to events regularly because they were fun. Like they were fun events. You had all kinds of people that would show up there, like all types of different artists. Like I remember seeing like Slankston there a long time ago, and I wasn't even familiar with who he was. I had heard his name, but I had never met him.
Right.
But you would find people like him there. I don't often find poets who are funny in their work. But I would find that there. So it was a great show overall. And I would go and do my thing and think like, oh, it's some cool stuff that I wrote, but I didn't know how to deliver it. It was trash. And I mean, like in comparison to now, it was trash. But I went away for about a year and came back, and I had this poem called Intellectual Whore. I had that, and it used like a lot of sexual metaphors. And it was kind of dope, at least for the time it was. I wouldn't run it by you now, but it was kind of dope at the time.
Let me tell you something. And this is just a note. I will say this. Last night, I was hosting a friend of mine's birthday, and the open mic list was not that full. Normally, I perform once and I'm done for the night. It's about the audience after that, but the open mic list was low, so I performed more than I normally would. And because it was my friend's birthday, I pulled all of these poems that I had not performed in ages because I know that they are their favorite poems.
Okay.
And they are always like, why don't you do that poem no more? Why do you do that?
Their favorite poems are probably your least favorite poems.
No, if you ask me, they just come out with like, I have better stuff. Like, that's just what it's like. I know I have better stuff than this.
Right.
But one of the poems I did last night, they were sitting there like, oh my, do you hear afterwards, he's going, did you hear the audience when you were doing that poem? That's probably like 8, 9 years old. Is it that old? Probably about 8 years old. Ain't done it in 3 years. But and the audience
still go up for it.
Huh?
The audience still go up for it.
Yes. So the point of this is that even though you may not think that it is one of your better pieces compared to how you are today, the audience will probably still love it.
I don't know. I'm gonna run it by my twin one day, and based upon his experience of it, we'll see it on stage.
All right, I'll take that deal.
Okay.
What changed? What did you do to change from, I will call it, reading on stage to being more of a performer? What changes did you make? I'll say it that way.
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I just know that I had stopped going out for about a year. I met this guy. I met this guy. Maybe that's what it was. If I think about it, that might be what it was. And thank you for that, because I never thought about that. I met this guy who passed away. And he did poetry, and I was crazy about this dude. Now keep in mind, back then, like, we only had like MySpace, like social media and stuff wasn't popping like that.
Right.
And like we wasn't in contact regularly, but like we was in contact enough. And he like would disappear, show back up, and like come with like this dope stuff that he wrote. And he was just everything that I didn't expect him to be. So like when I seen him, I imagined that he was going to be this particular type of guy, and he wasn't that. So when he showed up with like poetry and talking about Marcus Garvey and all these things, I'm like, I didn't expect that from him. So in my eye, he was so dope, and I'm like, damn, this is crazy, because I'm really having like a revelation right now. But
wow.
I wanted this guy to like me. I really did. He worked at Downtown Locker Room. He worked at Downtown Locker Room. And I wanted him to like me. So he knew that I wrote, but I wouldn't share anything with him. Share anything with him. He would go away for a second. He'd show back up. We'd be cool for a while. He gone again. one time he ain't show back up. He had gotten killed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he had gotten killed, and I had wrote a poem about it. I wrote a poem about him. And I hadn't performed it or anything. I was going out performing, but I didn't perform his piece. But when I was going out, like, and getting on stage after he passed, it was a different thing. It wasn't the Mysfit that was the Mysfit that everybody knew prior to this one.
Mm-hmm.
It was something else at first. But I would go out and perform, and it was better than what it was. But when I did his piece, I feel like that's when, like, I really got into, when you get on stage and you really, like, just let it go on stage. And I think that's when I learned to let it go on stage, like, and I became free on stage. I think when I started doing his poem, I think I probably only did it twice. But I got familiar with that freedom that you get in that moment. I think that's when it changed. I don't know if I ain't gonna say if I didn't meet him that this Mysfit wouldn't be this Mysfit. I think I still would have been. I think it might have taken me a little bit more time to get there. But yeah, I think when I think about it, it might have been him that inspired the actual, performance, and forgetting, everybody being there and just doing what you need to do for yourself.
And to get free.
Yes.
I know in your work, you do often discuss being a gay man. And I'm not, wait a minute, let me make sure. Am I using the correct term? Because I know everybody uses something different. Okay.
my twin feels like bitch is the accurate pronoun.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
But yeah.
What other, as I know you do a lot of work in that area, what other topics do you prefer, do you enjoy writing about, or do you find are coming up now when you do take the time to?
I talk about, and it's funny though, that I do talk about, like, being gay and stuff so much now, because that wasn't something that I would explore, once upon a time. I wasn't writing about that stuff, but that's, like, big in my poetry now. I talk about, the injustice of Black people. I talk about, so this is the interesting part. Oh, sorry. So you about to get something.
I'm ready.
So it's not, I told you I'm not writing much poetry anymore, but I am writing something, and it's not what my typical poetry, like, content is.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I'm kind of feeling like I want to rap a little bit.
I can rap and poetry are siblings.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's just how the difference in how we use the rhythm and our voices that changes.
So the things that I've been writing isn't what I would write in poetry, though.
Really?
Listen, I'm a nasty dog when I write what I would write for rap. You've never heard sexual poetry from me, have you?
No, I have not. Listen,
it is the boom boom room when I'm writing these days.
Wow, that's interesting. That the avenue of writing rap, right? And we're just, again, I still know very much well, like, this is for the people. I know they're still siblings, but when you're writing rap, you feel that you can be that graphic and that free compared to trying to put it into a poem.
I think that might partially come from who I wouldn't say idolize, but who I enjoy in rap. And I love female rap in particular, which I don't think that should be a term, but it is.
I get what you're saying, though.
But yeah, I love Trina. So yeah, the stuff that I've been writing is wild.
Do you have plans to record, or is it just really just for the page still?
I did mention like doing a mixtape. One of my friends was over here like 2 weeks ago, and he raps and he's dope. And he's saying something that I wrote, and like we had like beats playing and stuff, and like we was playing with the flow of it and stuff like that. I toyed with the idea. However, I can't see me on stage rapping, but I didn't see me on stage being the misfit. I didn't see that either. I do believe that I'm good at it. I think I'm pretty good at it. Maybe.
But you just did. I get that. I think if you'd have asked most poets at a certain point, did you see yourself being where you are now? I think the answer would be yeah, nah. I figured out.
I agree. Did you?
No, I had no idea. And when you throw in that I did not start writing until I was almost 40. I'm older than yeah.
Really? Nothing at all.
No, I wrote a after 9/11, I wrote a simple poem. Can't even remember the title of it right now, but I really liked it. And I'll know, and you know, it's been now 20 years ago because I don't even have the original version of it. So I think I had to cut it up for something.
Okay.
And so I cut it up a little bit, and but it was just about, I can tell you the topic of the piece was really about the people that were killed that day. And we just need to remember that whatever your theory of the events are surrounding 9/11, those people had families, they prayed, they were going to work. They didn't expect to get caught up in whatever.
Right.
So, and I wrote that in right after 9/11. Prior to that, I had written one other poem that was it was like a gift that I was giving to somebody. And it was very basic. Roses are red, violets are blue, you know, but it was a very simple A-B rhyme scheme thing that went with the gift that I gave. But yeah, so that was mid-90s and 2001. The person that you know now and the writer that I am now really didn't come to being until I was about 39. And I want to say it was still maybe another year after that when I started performing.
Wow. I would have thought that you had been at this forever.
No, I had let's say this ain't I'm interviewing you. No, I had good.
You told me this was a conversation.
You're right. It's a conversation. I had good mentors. The Baltimore poetry scene is one of the most supportive group of people, and
talent.
Yeah, yes, insanely talented.
Right.
And between the Baltimore and the Washington, D.C. scene, this is where I was coming up. Both scenes were very much about, okay, we see you out here doing this thing. Let me help you make it what you're doing better. Like, I never got a feeling of you're not supposed to be here.
Close you out, right?
Yeah, I've never felt blocked out. When I had to take a break, a whole lot of life happened all at once. And I had to take about a 2.5, 3 year break. When I came back and there were the people that were here before were still here. And then you get a whole bunch of new people.
Thank you.
And it was the same thing. It was, even the new people were still very supportive and very helpful, and still wanting to see you succeed and grow, and having that type of community around you makes it, I don't know, I'm just going to say doable.
Okay.
I'm going to say doable, and having the space to grow. And one definitely thing around here is that they do not allow you to be pigeonholed. They will not pigeonhole you.
Listen, you have
Mm-hmm.
So it, from my viewpoint, it seems like you have a pretty good connection with a lot of the people. I wouldn't even say just Baltimore. You have a pretty good connection with a lot of poets. But now you let me know if I'm going too far.
No, go ahead. No, that it's fun conversations. It's fun conversations. What would you like to see in your next iteration of Mysfit?
Good question. There's a lot that I would like to see. I guess a new level of honesty. And I've felt for a long time that, like, I'm not afraid of anything. Like, I can say what I want, I can do what I want. Who's gonna check me? That's how I felt. But now, like, life be life and real hard.
Right.
And to get back into the poetry space, like, I only write from a heart space. And I just don't know, like, if I'm ready to be that honest. So I believe it'll still be the same, but I don't know if I've grown enough to reach that level of honesty yet.
I understand exactly what you're saying. That makes
perfect. But I do want it. I do want it because I know the freedom that poetry gives me. I know the freedom that honesty gives you. I just don't know if I'm ready.
Well, because it would be, I want to say that somewhere in all of my things, people, if someone will say that once you write it, once the poem is on the page, it's no longer yours. It's everybody's, also open to interpretation on what they're based on their truths.
Right.
I think that's what makes it hard, being that open.
Yeah. And that's scary. That's scary.
I get that.
But I do want to get there. So, like I was telling you before, like, there's some stuff that I need to talk about that I just don't know if I'm ready to talk about. Like, I can have those conversations, like, personally, like, with the people who's closest to me. But man, to see that stuff on stage, I believe it could be powerful. But you can never tell me before that I wasn't the vessel if I had it. Like, you can never tell me that. Now, I'm unsure. I believe that there's messages that I can convey and things that I can say that needs to be said, but I'm afraid to be the one.
I get that. I can understand that. I completely understand what you're saying. Now, in your bio, it says that you are a playwright, and I'm going to touch on this for a moment. Have you thought of doing, I'm just going to call a choreo poem, a play poem situation?
What's that? I don't know if I'm familiar.
When I said choreo poem?
Yeah.
Like for Black girls who considered suicide, they call that a choreo poem.
Oh.
So I'm just saying, like using your poems.
Okay. Okay. So
that's
oh man, Sherry, listen, have a conversation with Chris about the play.
Oh, okay.
It was that and some. Listen,
Chris did not tell us.
Man. Listen, ask him about Project Reject.
Oh, okay.
Listen, probably the thing that I'm most proud of. Like, I feel like that was my best work. I believe so.
So like, for those listening that don't know, what was Project Reject, or what is Project Reject?
Project Reject was or is a play that I wrote that incorporates poetry, dance, singing, music, miming, all these different types of art to tell a great story, like a wonderful story. But it never seen the light of day.
What happened?
Production fell apart. I honestly couldn't really tell you what happened. Like, I believe we all have our perception of what the problem was. I can tell you what my perception was. In my head, we weren't ready to go to stage. And we had like lockdowns and stuff. And I just didn't think that, it was time to, I feel like we were ahead of things and we wasn't, prepared yet. And I just wasn't ready to put my baby out there and it not be prepared.
Okay. So do you think that there will be a time in the future where you could bring it back, or try to slow walk the process back to bringing it to stage?
I have to, Sherry. Like, it's so good. So good. It really is. It's amazing. Okay,
so we will be out here rooting every like quarter. I will just like, so where's Project Reject? I'll just say something.
I got this friend that I do that with. He told me about an idea that he have. I can't say the name, but every time I see him, I tap him and be like, and say the name. Get to work. But I don't need you hounding me like that.
We had a poet friend. Oh, this goes back like 6-7 years. And they were like, yeah, I'm gonna do a CD. I'm gonna make a CD. Like, and she was talking about it. So about once a month or so, I'd be like, because I really wanted her to make a CD. And like about once every 2 or 3 months, I was like, so where's my CD? Like, I'm waiting.
See, but we do need people like you, though, because I know, like for myself, if it wasn't for Chris, Project Reject would have never seen anything. Like, we would have never gotten as far as we did. I wouldn't have books and stuff like that. Like, it's like I said, it's always been somebody pushing me. I hear Chris in my head right now. I do. It's always been somebody, and Chris has been somebody who's pushed me for a long time. But yeah, I definitely want to see it come to life. It's a beautiful disaster.
Oh God, I can't wait to see it.
It is.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, this is the part of the interview where we talk about, where I get into my 10 questions or so. Just like, this is just to get to know you conversation type thing. You don't have to think long or hard. Just, give an answer. We already talked about what brought you. Yes.
Long. Come on, you gotta choose better words. You can't say long and hard to me.
Wait a minute. You do know. You do know you are talking to the DC Renaissance Award Erotic Poet of 2021. Right.
Listen, well, let's have some conversations then. You ain't playing. What you talking about?
Anyway, because every time I say it, I'm like, I still can't believe I won, because I'm like, I was surprised I was nominated. I know it's true. But it was still, I'm honored to be nominated, and I appreciate it, the whole
Listen,
thing.
you better take your flowers. Shit, take your rosebuds if you like.
All right. So the first question is, tell us what brought you to writing poetry. We've already discussed that. So the second question is, tell us the story of your first experience performing. How you felt about it afterwards.
Poetry?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember my first one. If I'm not mistaken, it was at a Nova event. Mm-hmm. And I was on a bench. I mean, I was on a stool with a notebook. Terrible.
Okay, so your stage name is Mysfit The Lostboy. What is it why did you choose that name, and what do you want the audience to get from hearing that name?
So Mysfit The Lostboy comes from just what I guess, well, so Mysfit came from my surroundings. So like in the house that I grew up in, I didn't feel like I belonged there. Me and my mother didn't have a great relationship. Mm-hmm. My mother's other son and I didn't or don't have a great relationship. And then I was always around, as a gay man, I was around nothing but people I knew to be straight people. So I just always, felt like I didn't belong. So that's why I went with Mysfit. I didn't add the Lost Boy until a few years after, because at first it was just a Mysfit. Then I added the Lost Boy. One, because Peter Pan is one of my favorite movies. And two, because I just felt like it applied to my life. Even now, like being raised in church and then reading the things that I read in the Bible, and then people telling me, you're going to go to hell and all this stuff. And then somehow, as of late, they double back and God loves you. Like, I'm lost. I'm confused. So yeah, The Lost Boy.
Love it. What is the name of the poem that you haven't written yet, or the subject matter?
I know the subject matter.
That's fine. The subject matter is fine.
Those conversations that we was talking about, that I'm afraid to have.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how to say it without saying it.
And you're not ready to have that conversation. I got it. I understand.
The title, though, the title would be Dead Man Walking.
Okay. All right. This is a new question in recent weeks. It was given to me by a friend of mine. If Prince were alive today, he could not end a concert without doing Purple Rain. What is the poem that is most requested of you?
Iniquities. Definitely Iniquities. I must say that had to be a great coming out piece.
Right.
Still ask for it.
What poem do you wish to perform the most? And they still could be the same answer. I'm just asking.
Oh, listen, it's not Iniquities. It's not that. I feel guilty when I do Stillborn. That's the one that I did. But Stillborn is the one.
Okay.
Stillborn is the one that I can cry in Stillborn. And I cry a lot of times when I do perform Stillborn.
Perfect. Who is your favorite writer? This can be a songwriter, poet, author, anyone you consider a writer.
Never thought about that. I enjoy a lot of people. You know who I really enjoy? Frank Ocean.
Okay.
Frank Ocean, he'll write some shit, and he be like, and if you pay attention, it's like, oh wow, that's what he's saying. I really like Frank Ocean. I love Frank Ocean.
It's all right. I appreciate that.
Hold on though. I was writing dope as fuck, but the music, period. Kendrick Lamar, Christ.
Oh, wow.
Kendrick Lamar is amazing. And I just really got into him like maybe the last 2 years. So just imagine, are you a fan? Do you listen?
I do enjoy some of his music. Now, you also have to know, as you have learned today, I'm of a certain age. And there's a point when the music switches down to the next generation. And it's not that it's bad or anything. It's just, that's not for me.
Okay.
I understand.
I get it. I told you earlier, I'm an 80-year-old millennial. I understand what you're saying.
You understand? Yeah, I think most people do, or if they don't, when Gen Z starts releasing truly whatever their sound is going to be.
That was shade.
No, it's not shade. Okay, I am Gen X. I am proud Gen X. I am Gen X. Then the next group is the millennials. There's some of the stuff in that age, like I'll say the older millennials, that like some of their music, yeah, I rock with it all day. I'm good. Some of the younger stuff where I can't understand what they're saying, and it just seems to be a beat with somebody talking over it.
The mumble rap.
Yeah, I can't do anything with that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, so after the millennials, Gen Z at some point will really start taking over what I will categorize as popular music overall. And at some point, millennials, y'all will turn on the radio and go, what is this?
Oh, and listen, at some point, it's already happening for me.
Right? It's going to be different times for different people. It'll be different times for different people. And it's like, what is this? It's like, okay, this is not for me anymore. Yeah. That's all. Yeah.
True.
I say that on stage. I don't know if you ever heard me hosting. I will tell people in a minute. Take pictures, take videos, post them out on social media. If you put it on anything past Instagram, I swear I won't find it.
Right. You remember I was asking you for instructions on StreamYard.
Right.
I know nothing about this. If it ain't Instagram or Facebook, I'm lost.
Right. I get it. I completely understand. You can have a 1 hour conversation with anyone in history, living or dead. Who would you choose and why?
Christ.
Ooh.
Because I need answers.
What would be the first question you'd ask him?
Why are you so confused? Because I don't get it. Like, I don't understand how you can say that one, you're supposed to created me. Two, you're supposed to love what you created. 3, in the Old Testament, you damn me to hell. That's confusing as fuck to me. That makes no sense to me in Old or New Testament for whoever is responsible for me being here and being who I am to damn me, Old Testament or New Testament. I can never understand that. I don't understand. I don't feel like God should have had to send Jesus to the cross for me. Not for just who I am.
Right.
That makes no sense to me.
Wow. There's a whole poem in there somewhere. As soon as you said the first part of it, there's a whole poem in there somewhere. Your perfect concert. Pier 6 is set up for you. You have the best seats in the house. 3 acts, living or dead. Who's performing?
3?
Yes.
Oh, Shit.
Oh, you want a festival, huh?
Yeah. I've had a lot of faves. All right, 3. All right, so I'm gonna do. So my favorite poet is Emerald Green. Love her. Love her.
Love
like,
her.
So welcoming and inviting, fun, funny, beautiful to look at, great on the eye, like, and amazingly talented. Like she is the whole package for me. Emerald is there. She is definitely there.
I'm here for it.
Damn, this is hard.
And you can also include musicians, comedians, whoever you want to see on the show.
I am. But damn, I'm going to be such a terrible fan for not including Trina. But the only reason I'm not including her is because I've seen her a million times. That's the only reason I'm not going to include her. So it would be Emerald. You said living or dead?
Living or dead.
Emerald. I would love to see Kendrick Lamar. I would love to see him. And the last person. Damn, sorry, it's hard. Listen, it's gonna have to be Frank because I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to find my way backstage. And change my life and his too.
Tell us something about yourself that most people would not know.
Okay. Oh, this is gonna be terrible. This is about to be terrible. My twin know this, and a couple of my cousins know this, but I wouldn't share this with everybody. And it's not nothing shocking. However, I wouldn't tell people because I don't want people to think that my shit fucked up. I got these coins on my baby toes. For real, Sherry. I got these coins on my baby toes, and they've been wearing me out for the past week.
Oh no!
They've been ruining me. My cousin went and bought me like these little remover things that you put on your toe, and they've been helping. But listen, and the thing is, they don't even sit up. Like they don't sit up. They kind of like flat. It's just like they just be hurting.
That's not cool.
Yeah. See, now I can't even put this on my page because a gentleman might see this and be like, he got some busted feet. I don't even got no ugly feet, but.
Okay. So, and I know the answer to this question, so I definitely want you to speak to it. Do you have another creative outlet?
Yeah, I do a few things, I think. So the last thing that the most recent thing that I've been doing is the rap stuff. But I also have like a floral arrangement type business called Boozy Bouquets, where it has like candy and wine or liquor and roses in a bouquet that I make. And I kind of enjoy throwing a clothes together from time to time. I feel like that's a creative thing too.
I can't believe I did not think to bring up Boozy Bouquets sooner. What was just we're going to tangent and then we're going to get into the last question. I will ask you to please do another poem and then my teammate will come back. What was the spark to start doing Boozy Bouquets?
Should I say the name? He gonna be a crush.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, it was this guy that this guy that I was crazy about, who just couldn't figure his shit out. I'm starting to sound like I'm boy crazy a little bit, right?
It's all right. It happens. It's okay.
But you're agreeing with me by not saying no. It's fine. It's fine.
Look. I subscribe. I allow everybody to have their special brand of what I will say right now is crazy, but it's okay. Your crazy tonight happens to be boy crazy, but I will also say 3 years of doing this, the number of people that their origin story to becoming an artist, period, has to do with a crush.
Yeah.
Period. Yes.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes.
I will say this, and I'll answer your question, but the poet that I dated earlier on, man, like, yeah, and maybe you can speak to this since you're in that. Do you find, like, when dating artists, like, that the arguments and the fights are worse? Like, they seem tougher to me.
I don't argue.
Listen,
I
show me where to find your type of peace, because I can't keep it together once I'm pissed.
I know that my mouth is rather reckless.
Mm-hmm. You're a poet.
When I'm mad, my mouth is reckless, and I will say anything. And if I'm really, really mad, I'm definitely going for the jugular. I'm definitely going to, and I feel that is not a good way to be.
Yeah, because some things you can't come back from.
Some things you can't come back from. So I have a manner of in the moment, and I know people will be, I know there's like a psychological thing around this. I will pull back and I won't say anything. I shut down. Mm-hmm. I will then, when I'm ready to talk, and it could be, a couple of hours, but when I'm ready to talk, I'm calm. And it'll usually come out something like, this is what you did to piss me off. Don't do it again.
See, but that's still, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But still better than some of the things that you could possibly say.
Yeah.
And ruin everything. And it could be stuff that you don't mean.
Right.
That's very mature and grown up.
Mm-hmm. It took me a long time to get here. I'm not going to lie, but I also find in that time, from the time I shut down until the time I'm ready to talk, I'm also going through am I overreacting to something that this person did not do? Because we all carry, relationship time. Okay, because we all carry, what's the word I'm looking for here? No matter how much healing we do, no matter how much we try to pull ourselves back together after a breakup, we still carry some of the wounds of what previous people has done to you. Mm-hmm. And I had to see my way to, I want to make sure that if I'm mad at you about not taking out the trash, I'm just going to use that in this moment. You didn't take out the trash this morning. And this is what I'm mad about. Am I really mad about you not taking out the trash? Or am I, and I'm sure I'm not projecting the fact from 3 exes ago that never took out the trash. So there's
because you could be
right. And so in that time, from the moment I shut down until the time I'm talking it through, when I'm ready to talk, I'm bridging that gap. Like, am I really mad about the fact that you didn't take out the trash, or am I mad because this dude 3 years ago didn't take out the trash? Like,
it's the responsibility and accountability for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Listen, I need a master class.
If I could figure out how I got here, I would be more than happy to teach others. But that's my big thing. It's like, what am I really mad about? And really distilling it down to what am I really mad about, and what is going on in this moment.
Yeah.
and then let's address it. And I would not date anyone who did not know how to have a conversation at the end of that moment. If you want to raise your voice and argue and fuss all the time, we can't be together, because that's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I'm not for expelling a whole bunch of energy.
At least not that way.
Mm-hmm. Not that way. So that's why I was like, yeah, I don't. So when I say people, I don't argue. People on my day job right now, they hear me now on my, and this translates into work. I don't argue on my day job. Y'all want to keep running into the wall? I mean, I will try to stop you the first time. I will try to stop you the second time. The third time, go talk to these people over there, because apparently you're not listening to me.
Listen, at work, I'm not arguing. I don't give a fuck. I don't care enough. I came for my paycheck. I am only here for that. I don't give a fuck what y'all fuck up.
Right.
I'm clocking out after my time is up. Y'all do what y'all want.
Right. And but that's pretty much how I am. I'm like, I have all my evidence. I have everything I need. This is what you need to know. If you disagree with me and how I've run this down, show me where the disagreement is, and I will tell you, no, you're wrong. If we still want to go talk to these people over there.
But are they automatically wrong?
More often than not, yes.
Just go ahead and say yes, because you want to say yes.
More often than not. I mean, occasionally I'm wrong. I've come to a different conclusion on the same information. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to spend 10 minutes talking about the same thing. We've talked about it. We resolved it. Time to move on.
Yes.
There's other stuff to do. But you want to keep bringing it back, go talk to somebody else. And if you don't like my answer, go talk to somebody else, because eventually somebody will agree with you and you'll still be wrong, because I will get because at work, I will get the person that's in charge of whatever this is on the phone and be like, could you tell them what you told me about this thing?
Work this out.
Work this out with them. So the last question, and it was interesting considering your conversation with Jesus. This is really good. Now, wow. So the last question is borrowed directly from inside the actor's studio. If heaven exists, what would you want to hear God say when you arrived at the pearly gates?
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first part, funny, because y'all know my twins here. We always joke about we not getting in, and how we already paid our way for the front row seats in hell, because we know that's where we going. But we try to do our good deeds to at least get in on the back end, you know.
Right,
but,
I get it.
But I will have. You said what
would you want to hear God say when you arrived at the pearly gates?
Okay. I think I would have questions for him. Damn. See, this is when I become conflicted. So, like, I always have like these thoughts in relation to, you know, God and stuff like that, and the way that I was raised in questioning him and all of those things. But it's what I do all the time. I don't. When I imagine that, I always imagine it in a negative light, and it kind of makes me wonder a lot of the time. And I believe that I know that I'm not a bad person, but still, you know, when you've been, you know, it's been drilled in your head that the person that you are isn't going to earn, you know, a way in. It makes you feel like you can't be such a great person. So my question, I would just have questions for him.
Do you think that God, and I'm using this as the universal God, whoever everybody's God is listening, whoever your God is, would allow the questions?
No.
Really?
Nope. In my head, like the God that I know is menacing in my head. He isn't loving in my head. And that's a terrible thing. Because God is supposed to be love. So the God that I've created in my head is loving and welcoming and will accept my questions and have a conversation with me, but that's not who I believe is there. I believe that it is the ultimate judge there, who ain't answering no questions. This is what it is. And I don't think he have anything for me except for a closed door.
Okay. So there is no way I can follow up that. Otherwise, we'd be here for another 2 hours, because that is definitely a conversation. So I am going to go ahead and give you the floor for a second poem, and we will be back shortly.
Okay.
Wait a second. Let me get myself out.
I guess I gotta do iniquity. If you don't mind, can I borrow your iniquities? Since my sins are so much greater and heaven has no room for me, could you loan me your transgressions? See, my sexual prowesses are so detestable that I need to prove that I am worthy of a straight man's blessing Christian. Let me borrow your passive aggression so I can somehow learn the lesson that Jesus loves me, but you will burn in the name of the Lord. Let me borrow your discord, Christian. Let me borrow your discord, Christian. Let me borrow your discord, Christian. How can you use your Bible as a double-edged sword and think that both of those testaments will only pierce me? Or is judgment only reserved for those of you heterosexuals who sin so beautifully? Wouldn't you agree? Would you loan me your audacity, your ability, your nerve, the capacity to love and hate all in the same breath? See, my plea is simply to be sure, happy, and wanted as myself, so I feel that somebody owes me some confidence. Because after hearing all of the reasons that I am not worthy of his mercy, I have no certainty except for in the fact that I've been robbed of all of it. Christ paid it all, but didn't factor in the cost to me. Somebody, please. My soul is set to burn eternally. Would you loan me your iniquity so I can pretend to be better? See, my sexuality somehow severed ties to the Savior. So could you do me a favor? Touch your neighbor and ask him to grace me with a bit of his graces, since Jesus couldn't afford me and heaven striked homos from his budget and adjusted it just to make room for you, the virtuous and perfect insufficiency. But I wouldn't mind seeing those streets of glory. Would you mind holding on to my purgatory just for a second so I can peek into your promise? See, I'm so honest that I give your paradise back to you, but you're so willing to snatch mine away from me. You're that same thief in John 10:10 that comes to kill and destroy, but somehow you still carved out life abundantly. You're so high above me, even with your gluttonous way of fucking me, your fornication and adultery, your lies from the pulpit and your sodomy and secrecy. Preacher, 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 let me borrow your teachings as you pray for my delivery, not to your God, but still on your knees. Can I borrow the lies that it speaks beneath your teeth so I can misuse forgiveness and its power, so I won't cower at the idea of being forsaken? I know this is blatant and selfish in me to ask, but since you sin so much better than me, can I borrow your iniquities? Where's my manners? And excuse my urgencies, as I can see that you clearly are not done with them yet.
And all the air leaves the room. Hey, Miss Cayenne. Hey, Miss Cayenne. Waiting on our girl Genius to come back in. There she is. Ooh. Ooh.
Hey, hey.
I leave the floor to y'all for a moment.
First of all, I love that poem. I love both of them, actually. But I definitely know and have heard that last one, and I feel like that, like, That was probably the most appropriate way to end the back end of that interview.
Yeah.
Like, you were just gonna pull a poem out. There you go. I also, in the back chat, was talking about having dated an artist. When you ask, are the arguments more intense? Yes. You know why?
Yes.
Because artists, depending on what type of art we're talking about, but artists, we have this lovely way of playing one-upsmanship a lot, like in wanting to not just have the last word, but the biggest word in there somewhere.
Right.
So after a while, it just becomes ridiculous, but it's funny. like argue with a poet. They'll use like a $5 word.
Drop.
Right.
Right.
Argue with a poet. They use a $5 word, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, you're like, wait. What does that even mean?
It don't matter. I'm a poet. I can say it. I wrote it, and that's what it is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh gosh. Yeah.
And then in the back of your head, at the same time you're arguing, you're thinking to yourself, this will make a really good piece. You better hope I don't pull it out on stage in about a week when I have a feature. Don't do that.
Don't make me write you.
Right.
Don't have me read you. Don't make me write you.
I want to say I have a line like that somewhere, like I wrote you into this poem and I will write you out.
I feel like I heard that.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I heard that. Necessary.
but it's real. It is quite real. So, team, the floor is open for questions from both of you.
That was an intense interview.
I didn't expect it.
I'm Sayline over here. I'm Sayla. I'm taking a pause and thinking about all the things. So I can't say that I have a question per se. Well, I do, but I don't know. I'm gonna put it out here. It may not be artistically related, and you can draw me. You can pull me back. But something that you were saying, the question that Sherry was asking about, if heaven exists. What would you like to hear God say at the pearly gates? So, I remember something prior to that, you were saying something, and I wanted to know, and I think you answered it. Do you not believe you have the ability to ask God those questions? That was about the poem that had not been written yet. I think something along those lines. But do you not believe you have the ability or the right to ask God those questions now, before the end, now, in this present moment? Can you challenge him now to ask him, but why? But if that makes sense to you.
So now I do. I always do. I think if I didn't, I would probably live the life that I was raised to live.
Gotcha.
And I don't. So I feel like that's a challenge or a question, because I'm kind of going against, what I was taught.
Yeah. And so here's another question for you. I'm a firm believer in the power of words. I think most poets are, right? But specifically that the power of words from the angle that when you speak them, they manifest, right? The power of that word manifest. So with that said, you describe your name and the history behind it. Do you believe that at some point that declaration of being the lost boy will ever change, and you will speak something?
I would like to believe that I'm a pessimist. I would like to believe that I'm optimistic, but okay. I am probably a pessimist. No, I don't think so, because I've had this name for a little while now, and it's still necessary. It still makes sense for me. The only difference is now I feel cool. Like I feel like I'm somebody now, and not because of the name, just because I stepped into myself. But still, at the same time, I still feel. I talked about my family, like my home life. If we're having a conversation, we're having a conversation. My mother lives not even a mile away from me, not even half a mile away from me. I'm a lost boy. I'm a lost boy with a mother who is alive and well, and we're not connected. I have a sibling who grew in the same womb at a different time that I have no connection to. My father died when I was like 9 or something like that. Like there's always been unanswered questions for me. Like, and I think that's just going to be, you know, just what my life is. I'm 35 at this point. And I'm not even really looking anymore. I've kind of come to accept that. And it might sound terrible, but that's my life. Yeah, I'm not agonizing over it anymore.
Right.
That's why I can comfortably say, like, I don't believe, you know, there's anything there for me except for a closed door, because that's what I've been struggling with for a very long time. And asking for, you know, a sign, or, you know, tell me something or show me something different, make me believe otherwise, and I haven't found that. So yeah, I still feel I feel like that's just what it is.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, that conversation did end. I'll admit that interview ended a little bit more intensely than I had expected. But so
the same way it ended.
True. Good point. Hey, you're right. So I kind of did, instead of going like this, I kind of went like this.
Yeah, we did that.
All right, Girl Genius, do you want to go ahead and ask the last question of the night?
I do. You made me think of something truly funny, though. I'm the only person you'll ever meet. I had a point A to point G moment. Just follow me. I got y'all.
Okay.
You did like this. And I said, I'm the only person you'll ever meet that, you know how old people used to go, I used to walk a mile to school uphill both ways. True story. That's what that felt like. I used to walk a mile to school. I lived at the top of this hill, and my school's at the top of this hill, so you like this every day. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a tangent. It was just, it's true, but it's a tangent. Anyway, I am going to ask you the last question. First of all, I'm going to segue this by saying, I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm sorry. You know, I don't usually, you know, I ain't out there like that.
You don't. And you don't. And so I want to personally say I appreciate you being here. 2, I told you you've been on this list for a minute. I knew this was going to be a good interview. Like I just knew this was going to be a really good interview. And I know we started and ended kind of intense. It is what it is, right?
It is.
Exactly.
But this is
what it is.
This is no, it's not. It's past. It is what it is. It's like this is one of those. We get these so often, but this is definitely one of those. Go back and rehear some of this stuff, and just go and pick a jaw off the floor, because that's where you're going to end up. You know, this is one of those interviews. The last question, and I always say this, and I'm kind of half joking and half not, right? It is the hardest question you will answer all night. It's the most difficult question. It's the Jeopardy question.
Y'all came with it already.
It's the final Jeopardy question, and it always has to come from me. Right?
Of course it would come from you, Gigi.
Of course. So, you've been on this segment. This is from behind the microphone. I told you mine is Let's Talk About the ... usually book. Hers is passion projects, and Kaniki is poets and platforms, right? So now that you have been on this show, who do you think would make a good guest?
Oh,
whose brain would you like to see us pick?
Oh,
who do you think can deal with the peppering of questions from the host here?
Poets.
Anybody you want. We've had filmmakers, writers, poets, dancers, photographers. We like artists who have interesting. We like artists who've had interesting.
I know. I already know my answer. The problem is I don't think he's gonna do it. Furious George.
Who?
Furious George. Furious.
Yeah.
I would love.
We have not had him here. We have not had him here.
Is he even on the? And you know what? He just popped back up on social media this week.
I don't think he performing and stuff anymore. Hopefully, he can do an interview. I would love.
I don't know. The question is, I don't know. You're right. I don't know.
We're going to have to
It
reach
would be
out
a
on
fun
that
conversation, though.
Listen, get Chris on the line.
Get Chris involved.
Get Chris on that. Get Chris on that.
I think
That would be a fun conversation.
I think so too.
And we may have to bring Chris in.
If anybody can drag anybody out of retirement, it's Chris.
It's Chris.
and we might have to bring Chris in on the backside to be a part of the interview squad on that one.
That's a good idea.
That would be fun. And like I said, George would be a great interview. Yeah.
So everyone,
you're welcome.
Right.
In the words of Chris.
Right.
So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this time to please give a huge round of applause to our guest this evening, Mysfit The Lostboy.
The round of applause, literally.
Yep. Everyone, as you know, as we do every week, scrolling across the bottom of our screen is Mysfit's Cash App. Feel free to support the artist. Let them know. On top is his Facebook. You can follow him on social media at The Mysfit. Please catch up with him. Follow him when he does have time to come out and to perform. And trust me, because I just realized there was a question that came through that I did not ask, because one of the two performances we've done recently together were on a plantation, and I was going to ask you.
Yes. My twin had asked me about that. He was like, what's that? What was the Virginia performance that she's talking about? And I told him that, it was on a plantation.
You were on a plantation.
Yeah, listen, man, that's some Patreon content over there.
You know what? That might be a good idea. So everyone, we will be back next week. Kaniki will be with us, and she, if you were at Kaniki's in the room for Kaniki's conversation last month, she was spoken to Drew Anderson, who mentioned an artist named Complex. That is who our guest is next Sunday. So come back 7 p.m. live streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. Please like, subscribe, and follow. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we will see y'all again back next week. Good night.